Grand Prix motorcycle racing is the highest class of motorcycle road racing events held on road circuits sanctioned by the Fédération Internationale de Motocyclisme, FIM. Independent motorcycle racing events have been held since the start of the 20th century, and large national events were often given the title Grand Prix. The foundation of the Fédération Internationale de Motocyclisme as the international governing body for motorcycle sport in 1949 provided the opportunity to coordinate rules and regulations in order that selected events could count towards official world championships. It is the oldest established motorsport world championship. Grand Prix motorcycles are purpose-built racing machines that are unavailable for purchase by the general public and unable to be ridden legally on public roads. This contrasts with the various production-based categories of racing such as the Superbike World Championship and the Isle of Man TT races that feature modified versions of road-going motorcycles available to the public. The current top division is known as MotoGP since 2002, when the four-stroke era began. Prior to that, the largest class was 500cc, both of which form a historical continuum as the official world championship, although all classes have official status. The championship is currently divided into four classes: the eponymous MotoGP, Moto2, Moto3 and Moto. The first three classes use four-stroke engines, while the Moto E class uses electric motorcycles. The most successful rider in Grand Prix history is Giacomo Agostini, with 15 titles and 122 race wins. In the Top Flight series, Agostini holds the title record with 8, followed by Valentino Rossi with 7 and active rider Marc Marquez with 6. As of 2023, Rossi holds the record for most top-flight race wins with 89. And FIM Road Racing World Championship Grand Prix was first organized by the Fédération Internationale de Motocyclisme in 1949. The commercial rights are now owned by Dorna Sports, with the FIM remaining as the sports sanctioning body. Teams are represented by the International Road Racing Teams Association, IRTA, and manufacturers by the Motorcycle Sport Manufacturers Association, MSMA. Rules and changes to regulations are decided between the four entities, with Dorna casting a tie-breaking vote. In cases of technical modifications, the MSMA can unilaterally enact or veto changes by unanimous vote among its members. These four entities compose the Grand Prix Commission. There have traditionally been several races at each event for various classes of motorcycles based on engine size, and one class for sidecars. Classes for 50cc, 80cc, 25c, 250c, 350cc, 500c and 750cc solo machines have existed at some time, and 350c and 500c sidecars. Up through the 1950s and most of the 1960s, four-stroke engines dominated all classes. In the 1960s, due to advances in engine design and technology, two-stroke engines began to take root in the smaller classes. In 1969, the FIM, citing high development costs for non-works teams due to rules which allowed a multiplicity of cylinders, meaning smaller pistons producing higher revs, and a multiplicity of gears, giving narrower power bands affording higher states of tune, brought in new rules restricting all classes to 6 gears and most to 2 cylinders, 4 cylinders in the case of the 350cc and 500cc classes. This led to a mass walkout of the sport by the previously highly successful Honda, Suzuki and Yamaha manufacturer teams, skewing the results tables for the next several years, with MV Agusta effectively the only works team left in the sport until Yamaha 1973 and Suzuki 1974 returned with new two-stroke designs. By this time, two-strokes completely eclipsed the four-strokes in all classes. In 1979, Honda, on its return to GP racing, made an attempt to return the four-stroke to the top class with the NR500, but this project failed, and in 1983, even Honda was winning with a two-stroke 500. Previously, the championship featured a 50cc class from 1962 to 1983, later changed to an 80cc class from 1984 to 1989. The class was dropped for the 1990 season, after being dominated primarily by Spanish and Italian makes. It also featured a 350cc class from 1949 to 1982 and a 750cc class from 1977 to 1979. Sidecars were dropped from World Championship events in the 1990s, see Sidecar World Championship. Yamaha YZR M1 MotoGP bike, 2006. From the mid-1970s through to 2001, the top class of GP racing allowed 500cc displacement with a maximum of 4 cylinders, regardless of whether the engine was a 2-stroke or 4-stroke. This is unlike TT Formula or motocross, where 2 and 4 strokes had different engine size limits in the same class to provide similar performance. Consequently, all machines were 2 strokes, since they produce power with every rotation of the crank, whereas 4-stroke engines produce power only every second rotation. Some 2 and 3 cylinder 2-stroke 500s were seen, but though they had a minimum weight advantage under the rules, typically attained higher corner speed and could qualify well, they lacked the power of the 4-cylinder machines. In 2002, rule changes were introduced to facilitate the phasing out of the 500cc 2-strokes. The Premier class was rebranded MotoGP, as manufacturers were to choose between running 2-stroke engines up to 500cc or 4 strokes up to 990cc or less. Manufacturers were also permitted to employ their choice of engine configuration. Despite the increased costs of the new 4-stroke engines, they were soon able to dominate their 2-stroke rivals. As a result, by 2003, no 2-stroke machines remained in the MotoGP field. The 125cc and 250cc classes still consisted exclusively of 2-stroke machines. In 2007, the MotoGP class had its maximum engine displacement capacity reduced to 800cc for a minimum of 5 years. As a result of the 2008-2009 financial crisis, MotoGP underwent changes in an effort to cut costs. Among them are reducing Friday practice sessions and testing sessions, extending the lifespan of engines, switching to a single tyre manufacturer, and banning qualifying tyres, active suspension, launch control and ceramic composite brakes. For the 2010 season, carbon brake discs were banned. For the 2012 season, the MotoGP engine capacity was increased again to 1000cc. It also saw the introduction of claiming rule teams, CRT, which were given more engines per season and larger fuel tanks than factory teams, but were subject to a factory team claiming their rival's powertrain for a fixed price. The sport's governing body received applications from 16 new teams looking to join the MotoGP class. For the 2014 season, the CRT subclass was rebranded Open as the claiming rule was removed. Also, all entries adopted a standard engine control unit, with factory teams being allowed to run any software, and open entries using a standard software. For the 2016 season, the Open subclass was dropped, and factory entries switched to a standard engine control unit software. In 2010, the 250cc 2-stroke class was replaced by the new Moto2 600cc 4-stroke class. In 2012, the 125cc 2-stroke class was replaced by the Moto3 250cc 4-stroke class with a weight limit of 65 kg with fuel. For the 2019 season, Moto2 introduced the 3-cylinder 765cc Triumph production engine, while Moto3 and MotoGP still use prototype engines. Please like, subscribe and comment on the next video you want to see.